How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Back to work, baby. Doc here, Doc and Jock, back from vacation. Enjoyed myself a week in Florida. My goodness, 7 days goes by real fast. Come back to sunny Michigan? No. It was cold as hell driving in on Wednesday evening. My goodness, to go from 70 degrees in Tennessee to come back and hearing all the reports of just stay there, extend the vacation, don't come back. Seeing that last Thursday was 70 and then it was snowy Friday. You know how many pictures I saw of people that took Snapchats and Instagrams of ice on their vehicle last weekend? What the hell happened here last week?
Dude, you left and it all became Snowmageddon. It was awful. Absolutely awful. I don't know. Maybe you brought the sunshine with you, though. Look at you. And you're all like extra brown and tan. What the heck happened, man? Look at you. Awesome.
I had a feeling you would notice. I tan very well.
You do, of course. I mean, you got this olive skin. I mean, Jesus Christ, you're friggin' you and Jesus. Honestly, you come from that area. But no, man, you look good. You look good. You look rejuvenated. You look sexy. Before we start talking about your vacation, though, I've got a critical question to ask you. So you've been working out a lot, and you're down a whole lot of weight. You're looking good, looking svelte. You and Arnold, pretty soon, honestly. You guys are both going to be pumping iron. When you're working out at the gym, how do you go to the bathroom? Do you pee, like, do you pull it out over the shorts, or do you go down the leg? Because I'm a down the leg kind of guy. Like, I lift the shorts up, and I just go right, it's just easier for me.
How I use the restroom, it's an interesting question. I'm fascinated why you're curious about that. But no, I drop the drawers, and I go.
So you go over the top.
I go over the top.
You're an over the topper.
Over the topper.
All right.
Exactly. But when you're in a rush.
I fished the little guy out through, down the leg.
Exactly. When you're wearing drawers that have the hole in it, sometimes I have gone through when you're in a rush and things like that. But why are you asking?
I had a friend who asked me this, so I figured I'd pass this on. This apparently has become a topic
on how
to pee. So I figured I'd throw it out there.
Is this what's going on in Detroit sports? There's nothing to talk about. I see other podcasts that are like fishing for topics and things like that. I got topics for days, man. I got so much going on, and you guys want to know how I whip it out?
I just want to know what's going on with you and your wiener. No, that's all.
It's all good in that department. But I go,
you're over the topper.
Over the topper.
All right, cool.
Vote for over the top, my man.
Yeah, no, honestly, I'm a down the legger kind of guy. We should maybe run a poll on the on the Twitter. Mm-hmm. So how was the vacation? I mean, I seen pictures, and you look great. You look rejuvenated, like I said before. Yes. I mean,
it was a perfect time.
The kids looked like they had a great time.
Yes, it was a perfect time to go to Florida. One thing, though, that you do recognize is the first time I drove it. So 4 days of driving when you got 7 days off. We got there, we pushed it on Thursday. We got there Friday at noon. So that was good because I drove from 9 a.m. to midnight that day before. So I got there. It was fun. Enjoyed all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the wedding. Monday was tough because you got to start getting back and the drive. And when you recognize it, it's tough because look what happened. I'm a guy that's not a good flyer, okay? So I drove. I was comfortable. I loved the sights, right? And then you kind of go and you go, man, you really kind of wasted 20 hours of a vacation driving when you could have it's a 2-hour flight, just bam, 2 hours. But then you saw what happened. A woman got sucked out a window, a plane, tire blew out just in the last 7 days. And my sister's flight was bumpy. My mom's flight was bumpy back. They said it was just rocky because they flew back in the time when in Michigan it was windy. And so for me, I just felt I'm torn in that I loved the drive. My mind was clear. It was relaxing just to listen to podcasts, listen to Vito, listen to us, listen to sports radio in different markets. I was relaxed driving the whole way. The kids were amazing. They played, they colored, we talked, we interacted. It was fun. But at the same time, you look at it and you go, Probably I will not drive it again because it's a big thing. But to do it once, you got to do it. It's a beautiful drive. It's straight up 75. It's just easy, like everyone says. It's really smooth. There were no problems driving. Rented a car, got down to Florida. It was a family wedding. Had a great time on the beach. It was nice to get some sun. It was nice to kind of just get away from everything, lighten everything way down. But then it also gives you a renewed sense of passion about what I'm doing at the practice, with the podcast. When you're away from things that you love, not hanging out with you on a Wednesday was different. So when you are doing things that you love and you're proud of, you want to get back to it. So I was chomping at the bit to get back and thinking about Detroit sports and what was going on. And, I'm texting you, driving back, I'm like, man, let's debate Mo Wagner versus Miles Bridges. And that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the draft. I'm thinking about the Lions. So it never goes away. And obviously when you're driving, you see the different arenas. You see, I'm like, oh my God, there's, Turner Field in Atlanta. Oh my God, there's this and that in Cincinnati. You're just driving. You're going, wow, this is crazy. Atlanta is beautiful to drive through on 75. Florida is amazing. You obviously when you're there and you see what's going on here, you're like, man, what can I do in Florida? Can I be a butler to celebrities, make some money? And I'm like, cause I think I'm going to stay here. But in the end, I'm a Detroit guy. I can't leave. So maybe, maybe a vacation home, maybe a spot you go to when it's really bad that you can fly into. I'm just not a good flyer. I wish I could get on a plane. It's just the notion of sitting in the airport lobby for a couple hours freaks me out. And, obviously hearing my sister's flight was bumpy, hearing a woman sucked out of a plane, a tire from Detroit to Florida blew out yesterday. You hear all these weird things all in the span of a week. That's really weird. And then obviously I was a little freaked out too, because just prior to my departure, a family of four, unfortunately from Michigan was in Colorado. It's snowy. It's a different story. But they succumbed to, a fatal death in a car where they got slid under a truck. And you hear that and you're like, what am I doing? Am I actually putting my family at risk by driving? You freak out a little bit. So it's all encompassing in the thoughts you have when you go on vacation. But in the end, I should obviously work harder and go on more vacations. One vacation every 5 years is not right.
No, you should take more vacations.
No, I got to take more vacation. I'm working too hard.
I think you've taken one vacation to my, 3?
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't take many vacations.
No, I've taken vacation where I just stay at home, but I'm still doing the podcast. But in terms of just not doing nothing, passing it off to somebody and just saying, just do it, leave me alone. And it was nice to do. It was really cool, and I'm glad the network did well. The numbers stayed steady the whole week, so I'm happy with that, and I'm ready.
That's because we got the best listeners in all of podcastdom.
Now,
dude.
Before your curious question about saving sports, I'm very fascinated about what your thoughts are. I got a bone to pick with you.
With me?
Yes.
What'd I do?
Do not enable those that hate on the doc. Listen, if I want to open a show talking for 25 minutes, you got to be like, dude, Doc has great points. But fans, I want to set this up.
It was so true, though.
No,
as
I
you were
don't care.
going on your soliloquy last
I'm going to
week,
go do it more. Listen.
I was sitting there thinking, I was like, damn, is he going to take a breath?
Mikey P, listen, I have a podcast, obviously, because I like to hear myself talk. I started a network with my cousin because I know he's not going to ride me too much and let me do my thing. So we're obviously talking about Michigan State on last week's podcast. This is what I'm talking about. Get a message from great supporter of the podcast, Mikey P. And he's like, dude, I recorded it. It was like 7.5 minutes before Adam got to speak. And what's up with that? I'm like, Adam should be like, look, John has a lot of great points. John is, someone who's passionate about Michigan State, and he can, eloquently talk about a lot of different things. No, you're like, dude, yeah, I was sitting there waiting for the dude to shut up. I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. Support your brother, man. Support your man. Listen, if I want to talk for 30 minutes straight and you just sit there and listen, you're going to be entertained. It wasn't boring.
Hey, you could. And I would allow you to do that.
I listened to that podcast and I was like, whoa, bro. I was listening and I was thinking, man, that was really a good podcast last week. We were flowing back and forth, expressing ideas eloquently, being in the pocket of what is reasonable in terms of Michigan State. And you're like, dude, you're talking too much. Get to your point. That's the whole purpose of a podcast. There's no 9 minutes here. I can open the show for 15 minutes if I wanted to. You have the floor now.
Well, no, look, you did a great job. I thought you did an excellent job. But as you were going on, I was like, I think I did look at my watch. I was like, wow, he's been going for quite some time now. I wonder if he's going to take a breath here and let me get in here. But no, it was good. You did a good job. But on to this week. All right, that was last week. On to this week, and I was inspired by you. Inspired by you and our Twitter account. And if you don't follow us, you should follow us at Detroit Podcast. You had some back and forth going on with Detroit Sport Chat. And it was all about how to save baseball. I want to take this a little bit further. And I want to know, how can you save sports going forward? And throughout your course of your discussion, it was more or less because the weather has sucked so bad It's so early in the season for a lot of these teams, and they have to reschedule games. They've got to postpone games, and that hurts the fans. It hurts the teams, but it hurts the fans more, and it hurts the numbers and the viewing. So how do you save sports? What is that one thing that you can do to sit there and resurrect that passion in the fans and keep them invested in their teams and in sports?
Yeah, see, when you told me you wanted to ask and discuss this a little bit, I was a little bit confused. I was like, what is he talking about? But yeah, I threw out a question on Twitter to say, like, how can baseball improve and things like that. In terms of fan passion, I really believe it's there. Via the platform of social media, you have direct contact with athletes. There's a lot of platforms now in which athletes are starting their own things. Just look at Kobe Bryant starting this really fascinating. If you go on YouTube, what he's done is he's taken his knowledge of basketball and produced content where he takes you in depth in terms of the film room. And he breaks down film from past series. He breaks down how he looks at film. So these athlete content-driven sites are really amazing. I do think sports is at a crescendo, and there are a lot of negatives with sports in terms of, some athletes that are misbehaving, the disconnect between, the amount of money that these athletes make and the media and things like that. There are a lot of negatives. But in terms of my overall assessment of sports, it is truly the escape. That's the reason why I started this network with you, is that I love talking about sports. I love competition. I think what can be improved upon is obviously the lessening of the emphasis on this gotcha clickbait type stuff that is out there that's prevalent in the media of like, hey, let's focus on this guy cheating. Let's put out a bunch of videos of this guy's faults and this guy's negativity. Let's focus in on the negativity of sports. There's so much positivity out there. You got athletes now that are empowering others in the community. You got athletes that are making really strong business moves. And so for me, when I started, if you guys have ever gone back in time and looked at our archives either on YouTube or on Podomatic, because I've kept them there, I've started a podcast called the One-on-One Podcast. And if you listen through it, what I've done is met with interesting media members, interesting personalities, and gotten their stories in the psychological kind of way. Like, hey, what was your motivation? What are some tough things you've gone through? What advice can you give listeners of the podcast to how you've gotten to the point you've gotten to? So highlighting that has been invigorating. If we just focused on, Detroit teams suck all the time, obviously we got to talk about it, and it is frustrating when we're in that realm. But what empowers me, what lifts me up in sports is competition. When even in the podcast world, we're in competition with other podcasts. We're in competition with other media members in terms of respect. And I got a question for you, because I was a little offended. My ego was a little bruised, but not a lot because I was on vacation. But we're constantly in competition. And when you're in competition, like I'm in competition with you. I listen to the podcast and I go, man, Adam's got that bold voice. I got that squeaky ass, dumbass sounding voice. And I'm in competition every week going, how can I pump up my game? How can I get on Adam's level? How can I do more for the podcast? How can I highlight Adam, Vito, and the guys here more? And that's what invigorates me. As you can see here, my passion for sports. That's why I do this every week. That's why I can do 4, 5, 6, 7 podcasts of all different kinds. I'll sit here and do a podcast on, women's table tennis if it's interesting and somebody's really cool.
If she's hot.
If she's of that persuasion. But I love the passion of sports. That's what I'm into. If you just focus on wins and losses, you're going to get caught up and be frustrated. I always focus on the stories. That's why The Athletic is great in terms of features. That's why I go out there and try to interview as many interesting characters that will want to talk to me. And I love the competition. Just the notion of, somebody coming back and trying to do their best, maybe like the Tiger Woods or what happened at the Masters, in terms of what's going to happen late in rounds. The beauty of sports is the characters in it, and the competition, the goals, the drive for championships, how to build teams, how to build camaraderie. That's the kind of stuff that invigorates me. And so you ask, how can you save baseball? I think baseball is doing okay, but in terms of attendance, it's really hard when the weather's bad. And here's the problem.
Not just baseball. Go all sports.
Yeah,
the four
sports,
major.
Yeah, attendance is tough because of the fact that, look, what beats the comforts of home? You sit back, you can buy beer for $5, you can have your boys over, and I
like my own toilet too.
You can get up, do your own thing, you can have the camaraderie there. Bars are really fun to watch sports at. What has to happen for the stadiums is you got to make the experience better. Too many rules. Like, literally, I remember, like I said, 7 years ago when the Tigers were not that great, or a while back when they were struggling, and Usher, it was me in a row of, literally 15 rows of emptiness. And I went to move up and he asked me, show me your ticket. I was like, dude, there's nobody here. So sometimes the rules are a little bit tough in that, it's not the best fan experience going to the stadium. It's not the best. Wi-Fi is not the best. You're not connected as well. The viewership, watching the game is not as fun, and especially with the weather, you're not going to get people to go down to see a non-competitive product in 30-degree weather. It's just not going to happen. You can sit back in your heated basement, your heated garage, kick your feet up, have some Coronas, have some beer, take some shots, and not worry about going downtown, the parking, the attendance part of it. That's something that the experts got to figure out. But in that vein, I still think sports is great. It's a great viewership at home. If they want to figure out how to make it a great viewership in the arenas, I think that's a really valid question. And I'd ask you, what would you do to make Little Caesars better, Comerica Park better to enjoy a game? Ford Field is great. They're working on trying to do more with Wi-Fi and things like that. But I don't have as much fun in any arena than I do in the comforts of my house, even the comforts of this podcast studio. I could sit back, turn on 3, 4, 5 games, watch them, tweet, do other stuff, plan podcasts. You can do a lot more from the comforts of your own home, but it's just tough for attendance because of the pricing, and they got to lower prices. They got to do more to bring the fans in, and they got to make it more accessible 100%.
I think there are two big things that won't happen but should happen to help save the direction that sports are going and kind of pull fans back into the realm of wanting to go and being invested. If you look at what the NFL does, they have such a great business model because it's only 16 games. If you limit the games and it puts more emphasis on what you're watching and when you're watching it. Look, I could honestly care less about a hockey game or a basketball game, even a baseball game early in the season. Much later in the season, when they start to mean more, I'm more invested. Whereas with football, from the time that the season starts, I'm there. I'm watching every game. I'm watching as much as possible. It's because you have a limited season. If you dial it back, if you take hockey and you take hockey down to, 40 games, 50 games, even 60 games. Same thing with basketball. There's no reason for an 82-game season in either one of those sports. You dial it back, it puts more emphasis on each and every game. You're more interested. That's the one great thing about college football. College football, you can't lose. You can't slip up. The moment you lose, you might be done. Your season might go kaboom in a hurry. Now, baseball's 162 games. Don't tell me you're watching 162 games because I know you're lying. Nobody's watching 162 games. Not even you and I, and we're huge sports fans. I could honestly give two craps what's going on with the Tigers in the middle of April. There's not a whole lot. We'll find stuff to talk about, but there's not a whole lot going on. Now, we get around to August, yeah, we're dialed in. We get around to, mid-September, yeah, I'm dialed in on everybody in baseball, not just the Tigers. I'm watching what's going on across Major League Baseball. That's because those games start to mean more. You start to kind of figure out what's going on, who's got a legitimate shot to win the World Series, and you're kind of looking at different things and how that affects not just other teams, but your team more specifically. So I think if you dial it back, and it's never going to happen because the owners won't allow it because they're going to lose too much revenue. And that's the big issue is revenue. How much are they gouging fans on these tickets? How much are they charging you at the concession stand? They have outpriced the fan. I mean, you and I can probably never afford to go see a Super Bowl. Like if there was a Super Bowl in Dallas or LA or even New York, we could probably, even combining our money to send one of us, we could probably never go afford to do it because the ticket prices are massive.
It's similar to a Disney trip. You got to save for a couple years.
You do.
We could do it, but you'd have to save for 2 and 3 years to afford what you'd have to do just on the tickets. Mm-hmm. Imagine the experience is going to cost you, about $15,000.
It's unbelievable how much it costs to just get into the door. And then once you get in, I mean, that's why you got to smuggle snacks in, dude.
Oh yeah,
that's 100%. Why I got a packet of Skittles in my crotch right now to go watch a hockey game because. If I want some candy, I got to go drop $8 at the concession stand.
But Comerica Park is fair. They let you take in the dollar peanuts from the outside vendors. They're cool with that. They let you,
and they let you bring in your own bottled water, which is cool. But still, who's going through all the trouble to sit there and bring their own snacks?
Smart people. I do it.
Well, right. But you're going to do this for what? 81 games a year?
No. Season tickets for baseball is really tough. I mean,
Exactly.
you got to be really a diehard. And I think that's the thing, is that the question that people are asking now in a marketing room for the Detroit Tigers is, how do we get young people to watch the game? And it's going to involve Snapchat, social media, being involved, and you know it's coming. And I think that's what's interesting about you and I, is we can see things coming before it happens. And I do think what's going to happen is you're going to be able to chat with these players in game. That's what's got to happen. You got to be able to, like, hey, Miguel Cabrera in the fifth inning is going to chat with this section, and it's going to be a random section in these three. So if you buy tickets in these three sections, you might have a chance to chat with Miguel Cabrera. It's going to be more interaction during the game, something to, spark engagement with the professional live in the moment.
Speaking of Miguel Cabrera, so the other day, the Tigers ended up winning in walk-off fashion. Machado hits a home run to win the game. It was actually a really fun game to
all 15
to watch
people were thrilled to watch it, right?
Right, exactly. The one guy with no shirt on, he was so pumped, that big burly man. But Miguel Cabrera totally misses the home run. He's in the locker room getting coffee because he's cold and he's trying to warm up. Do you think that speaks to kind of the level of talent that is on this team? Now, look, Dixon,
you took offense to it a little bit?
I'm just wondering if a guy like Dixon Machado is going to take a little bit of offense, because you got probably arguably the best player on your team. Like, yeah, I'm going to go get a coffee real quick. I'll be back. Now, you know if that was Ian Kinsler, if that was JD Martinez, even Victor Martinez, Miguel is not going to the back to get coffee. I don't give a damn how cold he is.
That's so funny. And I think that actually speaks to what I'm talking about, in that, Dixon Machado is probably just happy that he got the opportunity to be up there at that moment and hit a walk-off. So he might have a joke with it, a couple texts back and forth. That really does play into and segues into what I was talking about, in that I'm a podcaster out there reporting college hoops, things like that. And one of the teams that I chose to go out there and cover was Oakland University. Mm-hmm. Okay, so for the last 2 years, I've seen
big shout out to Greg Campy.
Thank you so much and I thank them all the time for what they've done in allowing us to grow as sports reporters to cover it. Okay, so I've chosen the Horizon League, Detroit Mercy, and Oakland basketball to highlight, to get my feet in the door, covering sports, being around the mix, so that it was also a jump off into other things that I wanted to do and things like that. So I started off at the Horizon League and Oakland University, right? So for the last 2 years, they host what's called the Black and Gold Awards, and they highlight the athletes of the year and things like that. They highlight all the athletes, and they do an award show. And in the last couple years, I noticed 2 years ago they had it at the Fox Theater. It was a big shindig. They have media members like Sky Kirstein, Mike Sullivan from The Ticket, Justin Rose, Johnny Kane, Lauren Jabara. They have people that are around the program presenting awards. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. So I'm driving back from Florida, just about to leave the state of Florida in my endeavors, and I see that it took place on Monday. Did the doc get an invite? No. And I'm like, man, I thought about it, and what bugged me was my thought was like, I took a little bit of an offense
Justin
to it.
Rose and Amy Andrews, who's smoking hot. They
Yeah.
got to host it.
Yeah, they got to be there, present.
Justin Rose is pretty hot, too.
Yeah.
What up? What's up, Justin?
So you
Even
look
though you
at
blast
it,
me on my own Twitter or my own Facebook account.
Yeah, I gotta ask, and I tried to struggle and be like, look, you're on vacation. Maybe they saw the tweets and things like that, but honestly, I wasn't invited because I'm not on the radar. I'm just a podcaster, and that's all the thoughts in my head. And I'm like, stop thinking that way. You've done a lot, but I'm like, man. Outside of the thanks, they have not been oblivious to what I've done. Okay, they've shown the proper amount, but just a little bit more would have been to, hey, shoot the doc a text and be like, hey, we're having this awards show. I mean, you don't just plan it the day of. Last week you could have messaged and said, hey, do you guys want to come out and at least look at what it looks like? I haven't been invited to the Black and Gold Awards.
You're upset that they didn't even let you know that this was going on.
I know what's going on, but yeah, they didn't extend the invite.
But they didn't say, hey, this is what's going on this day.
Yeah. Would you like to present
or maybe cover
or be a part of it?
Yes,
come check it out.
Some part.
Be a little bit extra acknowledgement of what I'm doing.
Maybe a year away. Maybe you're a little early.
2 years of what I've been there to every game.
Early.
Every game, covering them, tweeting during games. That's a lot of a lot of exposure for the Horizon League.
It's a lot of you put a lot of work into cultivating that relationship.
Outside of Oakland, how should I react to that? Because this is what I battle with. I'm like, dude, is it a disrespect thing? Is it something where I should be like, because I'm tired of kicking the door down. I obviously can do it.
You'd like somebody just to open it for you, say, hey, come on in.
Yes, and it's a good feeling doing that. Trust me, when there's a door block or an SID that at first tells you no, and then they finally let you do the interview, there's a good feeling in that. But yeah, sometimes it would be nice just to be like, hey, you know what? Come to the Black and Gold Awards. We'd love to have you. Just on your own. Just, It would be nice to feel that.
I think this
Then I
time,
could say, no, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm on vacation.
I
Hey,
think-
can Adam go?
I think this time around,
You're an alum of
I
Oakland.
am
You
an
could have
alum.
went. You could have represented, put on a nice suit, shaved for once.
I do need to shave. This thing is getting
Right?
gnarly.
I would have said no, but you know what? Then it could open the opportunity for you to do it. Be like, hey, you know what? This is Adam from the Detroit Sports Podcast, but it didn't happen. So I did take a lot of offense. Listen, it's just a personal thing. And it's like, man, why?
I don't
Because when
think
you
you
ask the
should be
question,
upset. I don't
when you
think
ask
you
the
should be
question,
upset.
why wasn't I invited then?
I don't think you should be upset because you weren't going to be able to go anyways, right?
Right.
So what are you getting all worked up about? You weren't going to be able to go anyways. But I think maybe another year, maybe another 18 months.
Should I
After
say,
that,
should I have
maybe
sent
get
the?
upset.
Well, I obviously passively aggressively sent Neil a tweet. Should I have sent it where I said,
It was Neil the one who sat there and set it all up?
I don't know who sets it up, but he's a big guy there.
He is a big guy.
and he's
there.
my contact there.
Neil is, for those who don't know, Neil Rule wears a lot of hats with Oakland. He does
And in the media-
a great
well, this year,
job
he's the media
with-
director.
He does a great job with a very, very skeleton crew type cast.
And
all those guys who are a part
Yeah.
of that team do a phenomenal job.
Hey, phenomenal. They've been nothing short of cordial and amazing to us. Listen, this is just a me thing, exploring.
Look, every
should
time-
I be offended by it?
Every time I do stuff with Neil for DFN, he's always like, "Hey, how's the podcast?" He's always asking about it, so he knows. He knows.
Why wasn't I invited?
I don't know why you were invited.
That's what I'm
Talk to
saying.
Neil.
That's what I did. I sent him a message. I said, look, what is this black and gold awards I hear of? It makes my trip a little sadder. He liked it. I think he caught the message. Like, come on, man, shoot the doc and invite. Just kind of shoot me an
Maybe
invite.
next year.
Yeah.
Maybe next year. He's always asking about the podcast, though.
Yo, he knows it.
He's always wants to know what's going
No,
on. and
listen,
he's always more than cordial to sit there and extend an olive branch to us and
yes.
either bring us on his show when he's
Amazing.
filling
Oh,
in
my gosh.
for one of the guys
Amazing.
at DFN or
Yes.
when he's doing anything.
It's
So
amazing. No,
Don't
it-
take offense.
I know that. But it's just, an ego thing. That's what ego is about, is that you want to know why you weren't invited because Justin Rose was invited.
Do you realize this first segment has spanned like 10, 15 minutes longer than we
You're
wanted
right.
it to?
But in the end, similar to Dixon Machado, I'm going to take the high road, and I'm sure he was happy, and I'm happy with our coverage of Oakland, and I'm happy with how things are in the world of sports in terms of it does need to be looked at in terms of attendance, but as long as there's sports, as long as there's competition, there'll be stories, there'll be amazing content, and it's not going anywhere. It's just going to continue to grow.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I think we need to go to break.
Yes.
though, because
Yes.
these next two segments that we
Could be
have
even longer.
right?
So that time limit probably is not going to happen. Who cares? It's going to come out anyway. All right, first time out, we'll come back and we'll talk about something that was just in my mind driving back from Florida. Obviously, the whole Michigan State thing, we have to debate it. Adam's a Michigan supporter. I'm a Michigan State guy. I'm still sticking with Michigan State, even though John Engler messed up royally.
Oh, my God.
Last week, Friday, was very fascinating audio and things like that. We'll probably touch on it just a touch. But I was thinking about two guys that are entering the NBA draft, and I was thinking, who is likely to have a better career? We'll tell you, we'll fill you in next on Doc and Jock. Doc and Jock here for our host site, Podomatic.com. If you're looking to start a brand new podcast, the one thing, a key to get your podcast off the ground is having a great host site. Why do we use Podomatic.com? When Adam and I first started the project, we were looking for a great place to host all of the recorded audio. And at this point in time, we've recorded 800 to 900 weekly podcasts on our platform. We've only used one host site, Podomatic.com. If you're looking to start a brand new podcast, Doc, Jock, Vito, Jason, Steve, all the hosts here on the network, we're going to recommend Podomatic.com. Super easy, very friendly to use. Their links are great, guaranteed to work. So when we have great guests and even future guests that might show up here on the network, we got to pass along quality links. And Podomatic.com provides that. So if you're looking to start a brand new podcast, you have to use Podomatic.com. So like I was saying, I was on vacation in Florida, and so what should I have been doing? Should I have been looking out the window, looking at the scenery? Should I have been talking, engaging with the wife or the kids? No! I'm thinking about Mo Wagner, Miles Bridges, entering the NBA draft, and I'm thinking, man, you know what? People are kind of looking for topics, and they're kind of, you had messaged me and said, Doc, I think we're going to be a little creative this week. I'm like, cuz, I wasn't going to like slam you. I was like, cuz, look, we could not talk for a week. We come in, turn on the mics, we're going to have a chat because we love sports, and it wouldn't take long for us to come up with things to talk about. We could just talk about Ron Gardenhire and his goofy looks. And his
I think you might have to maybe tell us something else that you might have going on. You're thinking about these guys who are going to the NBA when you should be playing with your kids or thinking about your wife.
Exactly. But I was thinking, and I was like, you know what? This is a really good topic, a really good poll. And you obviously know when you do a good poll when it's around 50-50. And I knew that it would produce some debate and some conversation that people responded. The question that I asked was, in terms of who's going to have a better NBA career, who do you think can project to be an individual that can have impact, that can play a lot longer, and that can do more for the team that he's on? And of course, a factor is which team these individuals go to. But in terms of Miles Bridges versus Mo Wagner, I think it's really interesting debate to decide and look at which pro, when they start their NBA career, is going to be better overall. And I'm going to go with Miles Bridges just because of the fact that when you look at his game and his body, the potential for significant talent is there. Now, a name that people have kind of gravitated toward, and that's a little bit of the easy approach, is Draymond Green. They say, you know what, they can, initially, people can say, you know what, this guy can work hard and develop. But I think right now, if you're a State supporter, a guy that you can look to is like a Zach Randolph, a guy with a strong inside presence that developed a big NBA body and that hung around for a long period of time. But Miles Bridges has some skills. He's got a versatile body. He's got the ability to get inside and cause matchup nightmares. I think his size and his ability to hit the outside shot, which he developed in year 2, can cause a lot of problems for, players in the NBA to guard him. Now, a couple things that people point to and say he needs to work on. He's got to work on his three-point percentage overall because it's a league now where basically you got to either play at the rim or you got to hit three-point shots. And that mid-range game is not a lot of teams really want you to shoot long twos. They want you to either shoot the three, be outside, or get inside and get those easy shots. So the big question for him is, can he put the ball on the floor and create more opportunities as his career goes on? That'll be fascinating to see. My answer is yes. I think he'll produce. I think that a guy that didn't have as much success in college is going to be hungry, and he's going to want to be able to show that against quicker opponents and defenders that he can do some things, and he can develop an outside shot. I think Mo Wagner, what is going to limit him, I think, is just that talent. I think that maybe you're probably seeing the peak right now, and that the next 2 years, can he get a lot better, I think is the question that a lot of scouts are going to be asking. And, obviously the ceiling is super high in terms of, obviously people are going to compare him to Dirk Nowitzki. If he can develop that outside shot and he's a killer and he's got that instinct, then maybe he'll stick around. But just in terms of right now where I stand, I think Miles Bridges will have the ability to have a longer sustaining career and will have more impact in the NBA faster than Mo Wagner. But, maybe you'll tell me the same, you'll agree, but I could listen to arguments about Mo Wagner, what he can do in the league.
So with Miles Bridges, I think the thing that really helps separate him is just his overall athletic ability and his power. He's a really powerful athlete, and he's got a quick burst. And I think that's kind of what helps elevate him over a lot of guys. And I think that's kind of what it makes him a little bit different and causes that separation between him and different guys on the basketball court. I don't think Draymond Green is a good comparison to him. I think a better comparison. Who did you say?
Zach Randolph.
Yes, I think Zach Randolph is probably the better comparison there. A guy who's got to kind of work at his game a little bit. He's got to develop a little bit more. Look, Miles Bridges needs to work on the offensive side of his game much, much more. Defensively, the guy can guard anywhere between a 2, a 3, or somebody playing the 4 position. He's got that ability. He's got the physical tools to be able to do that. Offensively, he's got to work on dribbling the ball. He's got to work on really crafting that outside shot. He's got to do more. He's not your prototypical center. He's going to, he's not your prototypical forward. The guy's got abilities, so I think he's going to be okay. He just has to really hone in on his craft, and he's got to go to a team that's going to really allow him to develop, and that's kind of my concern, because he's going to end up getting drafted. He's a late round lottery pick. He's going to end up getting drafted high. They're going to expect things from him right away. And look, he's long, he's strong, and right there's a drop for you. He's about 6'7", so he's got the body and he's got the frame. It's just, is he going to go to a team that's going to allow him to really develop those skills? Now, Mo Wagner, on the other hand, look, he's not a late-round lottery pick. There's more chance for bust there. But the thing that I liked out of Mo that I've seen is every single year he has gotten better and better and better. He's developed different parts of his game, whereas Miles Bridges, over the course of the last 2 years, you've seen a little bit of regression from him. You really haven't seen him take the bull by the horn and get on the court and really work on the aspects of his game that you need him to work on to really help elevate himself over other guys. It's just all natural, raw ability right now. Whereas Mo Wagner, I mean, the guy hits 39% from three. That's a big dude knocking down threes, you know what I'm saying? He's better than 52% on the floor. I mean, that's a really good average for a big guy. And he averages over 19 boards a game for his career.
And you're expecting continued growth when he enters the league with Mo Wagner.
Exactly. And this is the thing. His defense needs work. He needs a lot of work on defense. He takes a lot of silly fouls. He gets himself in a lot of trouble, and that limits him. You can't trust him to be out there in crunch time, and that's a problem.
And you can agree that he's got to work on his athleticism, right?
He does. His pick and roll has been a giant issue for him over the course of the last 2 and 3 seasons. All right, but overall, the thing I like about Mo Wagner and what I'm really high on, and why I think he might be a steal in this draft, is every year he gets better and better, and he's got the want and the ability to get better. That's why I think he's going to be a better player. And look, I like the comparison to Dirk Nowitzki. I think it's a little bit easy, though. I think Paul Gasol might be a little bit better of a comparison.
Realistic, okay.
Miles Bridges, I think he's probably a better offensive Jay Crowder, if that makes sense to you. A guy with a thick frame who can sit there, kind of body you a little bit, but can hit some shots. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys play out. In the end, if I had to sit there and tell you which guy is going to be better over the long haul, I think Mo Wagner has the potential to be better than Miles Bridges. I think initially, though, Miles will probably be better. Your first 2 years in the NBA, I expect Miles to be better. But over the long haul, I think Mo Wagner will.
Let's bring it home then. Detroit Pistons, if they could draft just one of those two guys, who would you want them to draft and say, okay, we're going to build around this guy. He'll be an additional piece that'll help us get back to the playoffs, will help us put asses in the seats. Overall, you're the general manager of the Pistons. You're looking at the film. You've seen what you've seen from both these guys the last 2 or 3 years, and you say to yourself, okay, which name do you slide into the commissioner's office and say, we want that guy on the Pistons?
I think Miles Bridges would probably be the better pick for the Pistons. Let me explain why. You have less propensity to screw him up, if that makes sense. Do you know what I'm saying? You know what you're getting with him. You don't have the ability for a guy like Stan Van Gundy to really sit there and mess with his game and really mess that up. With Mo Wagner's he's going to be a little bit of a project. You're going to have to do things to help him along. He just has the want to get better. So he'll listen, he'll do what you want him to do, and I think he'll get better as he goes along. So I think Miles Bridges would be the better pick for the Pistons right now. Does that make sense?
Yep, let's go to the people. Let's see what their response was on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. If you follow us on our Twitter page and you got something to say, fire it off. We'll read it. We'll read it on podcast so that even people overseas can hear it. So if you're listening or you hear one of our questions or you see one of our polls and we ask, feel free, message us at Detroit Podcast. We'll interact. We'll read it. Brendan Kudla gets in. I'll go Bridges because of his athleticism. He's a high flyer that can shoot it a little. I think his athleticism translates more than Wagner. Mo is very good, don't get me wrong, but I'm a little worried about his foot speed at the next level. Andrew Heath gets in with the opposite opinion and says Bridges doesn't dribble very well and has shown that he cannot shoot off the dribble. He can fly, but 98% of the NBA can, so that doesn't mean anything right now. Andrew Heath says Mo has the better game all around. So obviously a Mo Wagner supporter. Falcons got me hungover goes, laugh out loud, Wagner has bust written all over it. Tigerstown.
Can you really be a bust, though, if you're getting drafted in the second round or you're getting drafted in the late first round? I don't know if you can be a bust there. Look, it's the NBA. Your top talent in the NBA is generally going in the first 5 picks. After that, everybody's a crapshoot. This year's draft, you can make an argument that guys going in the top 10, 11, maybe 12 have the chance to maybe be special guys. After that, it's all a crapshoot. This is a weird draft this year.
Tigerstown gets in with a thought that I had to include, that I maybe wanted to include in the discussion, but I didn't. He gets in and writes, Jackson will have a better career than Bridges, and he feels like the other addition to the NBA draft, Jaren Jackson, has the higher upside. So it's an interesting debate, and one maybe we'll have when we see where they go later on, but I wanted to keep it to just Miles Bridges and Mo Wagner.
Does it scare you that Miles Bridges, if he came out last year, top 5, top 10 pick, there's no guarantee he's going in the top 10 this year.
Right, exactly.
I mean, does that scare you? This is a guy who last year was supposed to be lights out, and you were expecting him to go to that next level this year, and he just hasn't.
And I think it bodes well if he goes in a team like 15 to 20 because the team will be a little bit better.
Yes.
You go to a really craptastic team, you get lost in the shuffle on a bench. Now you go to a better team with better leadership, better veterans. You go to the likes of maybe Indiana. You go to the likes of maybe Milwaukee. You got a chance to do some things.
You remember Denzel Valentine when he was coming out? Like, I thought Denzel was going to be a really good special player, and there's still the possibility that he will. He ended up going to the Bulls, and you really haven't heard a whole lot from him. Like you said, kind of got lost in the shuffle there, and now he's a role player. And like I said, he may develop into somebody, but he hasn't really had that impact I thought he would. And I could see Miles Bridges being like that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see this debate. It's going to be interesting because a lot of people are going to be invested in where they go and things like that. And it's very important where they do go. Draymond Green was on a podcast, and he said that, you know what, if I went to a different situation, I might not have developed into the player that I am now because the Golden State Warriors allowed him to develop and understood his strengths and didn't try to tailor a system to him. They let him do his thing, and look what he's done.
Right. I think Mo Wagner could be your Draymond Green.
Okay.
He's a big guy, right? He's not as thick and as powerful as a guy like Draymond Green, but he's a big guy. He can hit some outside shots. He can do some different things with the ball in his hand. So it's going, like you said, it's going to be interesting to see how these guys develop. I feel like they need the right situation.
And before we take the final break, a factor that I think could help Mo Wagner is if he does feel that disrespect, like I did, and that, you know what, if he gets drafted late, maybe the second to, last pick or so, and he feels that disrespect as he's sitting there watching the draft, and he's like, man, I got the same talent as Miles Bridges. I got the same talent as Jaren Jackson. I think it might suit him to kind of feel a little bit of that burn and disrespect, get drafted later in the second round, and maybe have an opportunity to use that psychological edge to say, you know what, you all thought that I was a bust similar to Draymond Green. You didn't respect my game. You all thought and had questions about my athleticism. Let me show you. So he might even have a better career if he gets drafted later in the NBA draft.
Could you see him, when I say him, I mean Mo Wagner, maybe playing really, really well and probably being that piece on a team like maybe Golden State? Remember, he can hit the three. He's a long guy. He can hit the three. He can do some stuff inside. He needs to work on his ball control and dribbling a little bit more, but you don't need him to control the point. You're not going to expect him to be a guy who's going to really utilize the basketball at the top of the key. You're going to expect him to produce down low.
Right.
And it's going to be more of a mid-range game or an outside game.
I've been peeking into the resurgence from Trey Burke with the Knicks. Oh my gosh, he lit it up, and his kind of career has taken a really interesting arc, and that probably could happen to Mo Wagner, where, like you said, early on it's a little bit shaky, similar to Nick Stauskas. He's on a roster, but it's kind of insignificant, not doing a whole heck of a lot, and then maybe just the light switch goes off because sometimes you just need that development, and that's what happens in the NBA sometimes. I mean, you look at it, sometimes some people spend 10 years in the D League and they come up and drop 19 points. And you go, wow, where'd this guy come from? And he's like, dude, I'm 32 years old and I've had experience playing in the league. Just because I show up in my first game for the Lakers and drop 19, don't disrespect the grind. And maybe a guy like Mo Wagner might develop, 26 to 30 years old and be a contributing player, a guy that can do some things. So it'll be interesting to watch. I know you and I will be watching for sure. I'll be cheering on Miles Bridges and hoping that Mo Wagner goes to the Knicks and flounders.
You're such a hater.
Yeah, baby, you got to hate all the way to
understand.
The end. All right.
I think these two players, these two guys will be linked for the majority of their career.
Yeah.
And it'll be for different reasons.
Yep. And much success, obviously, we'll kid around. Much success to both of them. It'll be fun. It'll be a fun debate, obviously, with Michigan State supporters. And like I said, any good debate involves, the ability to kind of argue both sides. And this is perfect. Miles Bridges versus Mo Wagner is a really interesting debate, and I think one that was fun to have, and I'm glad we brought it to the table. Let us know what you think. You heard it. Did you agree with Jock? Were we crazy? Did we miss anything of substance? Let us know. Message anytime 24/7 at Detroit Podcast. All right, cuz, last time out, we'll come back, and we got to hit on the Detroit Lions and the draft. 1 week away. Tonight, as you're listening, you know the schedule is going to be released. We're going to have a chance to do the win-loss thing. You know I'm going to do it tonight. You know 8 o'clock, and be like, dude, come on, do you have a life? No, I love sports. That's why I'm going to go win-loss. Even though you know it's the Jets, you know we could debate, right now, can the Lions beat the Jets game 1? You know that's how chomping at the bit we are to talk NFL football. So stay with us. Last segment of the podcast. Greatly appreciate it. We're going to touch on the Detroit Lions. Stay with us. Thank you, everybody, for your continued support. It makes it really fun to take a week off and see what everybody's doing and really engage in the world of Detroit sports and nationally, and we couldn't do that without your support. Downloads are up, partnerships are up, meetings are up with potential sponsors. It's really great when you just turn on the internet and the interwebs and people are messaging you going, hey, can you put my stuff on? Do you like this? Check this out. Let's take a meeting. We want to know what you guys are all about. How did you guys get all these, ability to go and watch all these games, and how did you get credentials? It's really great, and I thank you for messaging and reaching out and paying us compliments. Even if you don't like it, we like to hear critiques. Whether you think I opened the show with a 10-minute diatribe, let us know. We debate it. Like I said, if it's something comes to the table, Adam and I will process it together and we'll have fun with it. That's what makes this project fun. Thank you for your continued support. Free and easy way to support us. Go visit DetroitSportsPodcast.com. That's all we ask. Click through the online banners. Take care of all your online shopping needs. Look, you want to go online and shop? You want to shop frivolously? You want to waste a bunch of money? Just stop through us first, and it helps kick us back a little bit in the coffers, and it helps keeps the microphones on and the studio lights here in our Sterling Heights studios. Thank you so much. Visit DetroitSportsPodcast.com. You won't be disappointed. So before we get to the Lions, I forgot something. You know it's going to be an interesting vacation when you stop for gas in Jacksonville, just about to enjoy the sun, you're about 3 hours away from your final destination, police standoff. It was,
what?
Yes. So here's what happened.
Why didn't you tweet about this?
No, I was going to take a video, but someone else was doing it, and I'm like, I just kind of wanted to observe, live in the moment first. I'm like, I'm not going to disrespect the cops like this. A woman was in a car, and she looked like she was on meth or on something. Yeah. She was belligerent, and it was a white Caucasian woman, probably mid-50s, and she was on something. So she was not right. And these cops, bless their hearts, they were just standing there talking to her going, look, someone called. This doesn't look right. We got to get you off the road. She's sitting by the gas station pump, and she's just going off on her phone. And she's like, no, I didn't do nothing. And the police stood there for like 15 minutes, and were talking to her. And I'm like, man, are they going to shoot her ass, or what are they going to do? Because I thought they had potential to get worse. But no, she just kept hollering. They kept going to the squad car, and they handled it professionally. And they were patient. The girls went, I'm like kind of hushing the girls to get into the bathroom and things like that. And we left. They were still talking to this lady, and they were like getting a little bit escalating. Someone was in the back trying to video it and stuff like that. And you're like, oh man, this is how it goes down. But it didn't go down the way you thought it would. They didn't raise their voice. The cops were calm. They had their hands on their gun. They were just talking to the woman. They were like, look, we just want to get you off the road. This doesn't look right. This is, they were getting stern. They were starting to escalate with her because she was so disrespectful. And you just sit yourself, and I was just thinking to myself, man, you couldn't pay me, even if you paid me $200,000 a year, I wouldn't want to do that job. And you give credit to all the officers that, are willing to do that job, because this lady was so like, she was huffing and puffing, blaming them, and she was out of it. She looked like she was on something, and she just wasn't listening. That's the thing, when you talk about cops, if you just listen, it's probably going to go better for you than if you don't. And this lady was not listening. She was getting in and out of her car. She was, chirping, and I was just standing there going, oh my God, dude, what's going to go down? Should I pull out my phone? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that to the cops. I'm not going to try to get content out of the police work. Someone did, though. Someone was videoing it on the side. They stopped, but I left, and I was curious because of the fact that there was no resolution to what I saw. No resolution. I don't know if they arrested her, if she went down to the ground, but police standoff first 10 hours into the vacation.
That's crazy, dude.
Crazy stuff. You ever seen something like that? Like just police something going down with the police in action live while you're like around it or anything like that, other than just passing by accidents or anything like that? You ever see the police, doing their thing, arresting somebody, pulling somebody out of a store, or just, I did one time at a Best Buy. I saw a woman slap a man in the face, and then he got a little bit, like pushed her a little bit, and the police came like rushing in and had to grab him out. Stuff like that's about it in terms of what I've seen live in terms of the police. That show Live PD on A&E is like blows up. You can see police going up to houses and doing their work live. It's a really interesting show. But in terms of what I've seen live with the police, thank goodness I haven't been involved with them at all.
No, I don't think I have ever really seen anything crazy.
Gotcha.
Normally when something like that's going on, I try to stay back, give them look.
Should I have live done something with that?
No,
it's not.
no.
It's not for sports content.
I mean, you could have, right? I mean,
Could have blown up. I thought
it'd have been something we could have talked about here. We could have sat there and broke down your video.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying?
Maybe taking the video and process it later and
Right.
ask you. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think. See,
Yeah.
I try to when stuff like that goes on, I try to stay back, get out of their way, let them do their job. I come from a family where my grandmother was really good friends with a lot of the police officers
yeah.
in the Detroit police departments.
Yeah.
So I kind of understood their struggle, right?
Yes.
And me and my grandma actually, we sat there and we butted heads a couple times because, like, I grew up in the era where I was around for Rodney King. I was around for Malice Green, for those who don't remember Malice Green. So me and my grandmother butted heads a lot about those two particular cases because she was like, before you pass judgment, you need to know what was actually going on. She's like, you got this video and you see this and you know this, but what was actually going on? What led to that? Before you say anything, before you pass your judgment, I'm like, no, grandma, like, look at that, da, da, da. And she'd be like, no. And there were times later on where she would be like, yeah, those cops who did whatever, they weren't good guys. So she's like, go ahead, throw your stones because they weren't good guys. But you should know before you make any decisions what actually you need to know both sides of the story.
Exactly.
So,
and if you want
want
a further view of work here in town, Flint Town on Netflix, amazing. I binge watched it in a day. It was an amazing look at what police do in Flint and a really interesting look at how police and the community interact and what needs to happen. It was really interesting, and it might change your view about the police. I really respected that project. Flint Town on Netflix. I guarantee you will be enthralled. You will binge watch it. You can't just watch one episode. All right, cuz tonight, when this podcast is released, after you listen to it, you can relax, go about your day, have a great drink and dinner, and 8 o'clock, the NFL is going to release the schedule. Were you excited at all? Were you like, you know what? I know in years past we've kind of talked about it. It kind of does serve as the springboard to start the, path to the draft and things like that. I'm curious because of the fact that it's kind of being released that the Jets are going to take on the Lions September 10th, Monday Night Football. I just go, okay, that's going to be good. There's a chance to kick it off with the victory at home. But marquee matchup in Detroit, the Jets? I mean, ESPN think tankers, what are you doing? You think that's going to draw ratings? Jets?
I don't know.
Lions?
Here's the thing, right? So you're gonna get the New York market. Mm-hmm. All right. So cool. Whatever.
Maybe New York, Detroit markets.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. But it's the Jets. So like, it's the B squad from New York. So if you think the B squad is, it's like, let's put it this way, right? It's like going to the strip club in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're hanging out until shift change, it's the only way you're going to see the A squad.
You're not getting the best talent.
Exactly. So I don't know how it's going to do ratings wise. I'll be interested to see. Of course, we'll watch because we're Lions fans.
100%.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm excited because the Lions can get a victory. I hope the Lions can get a victory. It'll be interesting to see what the Jets put out there. So I want to see what the Jets do with this draft that's coming up. So the Jets go out there, they get their quarterback, or maybe they go out there, maybe they draft Saquon Barkley because he falls to them. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? You're not really sure. So maybe you got a shot to see Saquon. And if that's the case, he could be a transitional talent. He could be a guy that
Saquon running all over Ford Field,
right,
prime time.
Just
oh my god,
crushing your Lions, and you're just like, what is Matt Patricia doing?
Yep.
Why can't he stop this guy? Why couldn't the Lions move up and get this guy? What the heck? I mean, there'll be storylines. So hell yeah, I'm gonna watch. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be a good game or not, but
Gotcha.
It's what it is, man.
Anybody in particular you want to see on Thanksgiving? Anybody you want to see prime time, eating turkey, getting fat, enjoying some time off with the family? I wanted to see the Patriots. That'd be really interesting. Good storylines.
There would be some good storylines.
But the Lions have requested a divisional foe. They want it to be a divisional matchup, similar to years past.
What about if you get the Chicago Bears?
It doesn't do it for me. I like the Patriots. I like Patriots. Oh, the Rams. The Rams
would be cool.
That'd be great with
because
the high-flying offense.
I am interested to see what the Rams are going to do this year.
Yes.
I mean, they have made so many moves.
That's marquee, right?
So many guys in, and they had such a good year last year that it kind of shocked everybody.
And that's why the Rams to open the season in Detroit would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Game one, you have the hotshot, young coach, and you got the new Lions coach battling, a couple quarterbacks doing things. You got the star-studded team. I mean, that's That would bring in ratings.
That would be a good game.
Right.
We
don't get
it. The Rams for Thanksgiving would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What about Minnesota? What if you got Minnesota on Thanksgiving?
That's been there, done that. A divisional foe on Thanksgiving doesn't get the juices flowing. I mean, it's nice to win a divisional game. It has more meaning, but there are better teams that are out there than in our division.
You know who I don't want to see on Thanksgiving? I don't want to see Green Bay.
Right.
I don't want to see Green Bay.
Right.
You know
what that means, right?
Yeah.
It's going to come. I'm going to laugh.
Yeah. I don't want to see Green Bay on Thanksgiving, and I don't want to see Green Bay. I don't want to have to go to Green Bay at the end of the year. Okay. I hate having to go to Green Bay, or I even hate going to Chicago at the end of the year. It's awful. The fact that your season will hinge on that game, and then you've got to go, and usually you get inclement weather, and it's awful. I don't want to go deal with that.
All right, everybody, buckle your seatbelts. This has a chance to get bumpy because I think we might disagree on this. All right, last week on vacation, you're checking in the newswire. Obviously, you have coffee with the wife, and you're just kind of hanging out. You check the wires. A couple guys that maybe are considered high risk have become available. Seattle let go of Malik McDowell, never saw the field, really had some issues starting with Michigan State. We all knew it was documented. And then the surprise, maybe not so much to those that were really in the know, but Dez Bryant was released. Do you think of those two, the Lions should take a flyer on maybe Malik McDowell, bring him on and see if you can kick off something with him, maybe bring him into a system, or maybe do you go out there and add to the offensive prowess of the Detroit Lions, maybe take a flyer and maybe, if it's the Patriots way, you go out there, you turn guys that are busts or guys that maybe have diminishing skills and bring them into the fold. Do you bring in, let's start with, I think Malik McDowell, we both can maybe agree, is going to be a no. I'm going to pass because I think
you?
I'm passing.
I thought for sure you were going to say yeah.
No, I pass because the guy, obviously, when there's smoke, there's fire. That guy has issues. That guy has serious issues, and you have to be a really solid locker room, and something's up with him. I don't think his commitment is there. Something's up in terms of what he does to the locker room. If you don't get on the field your first year and you have all these issues going into it,
remember,
something's wrong.
He had an issue where he was involved with an ATV.
Yep,
and
pass.
So
just take your drama somewhere else.
I would, out of the two, all right, I would be more apt to take a flyer on Malik McDowell than I would Dez Bryant. At this point in Dez Bryant's career, I don't need an aging wide receiver who is 30 years old. I don't need him who has slowed down. I don't need him who has caused issues.
So you're no on Dez Bryant.
Yes.
I completely disagree, and you're wrong.
Well, tell me.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Tell me.
Go ahead.
And then, so I don't need that in my locker room. Look, where are you going to put Dez Bryant? Like, Dez Bryant is no longer your speedster, your guy who's going to take a top off the defense, and that's what he was. Are you going to bring him in to be a possession guy? I don't need a possession guy. I've got that.
Who's that?
I've got that with Golden Tate. Golden Tate's my possession guy. I don't care what anybody says. Golden Tate's your possession guy. Golden Tate has always been your possession guy. Golden Tate will run down the field, catch the ball, and he'll either get out of bounds, and sometimes he'll break one. But Dez Bryant's your possession guy. You got your take the top off the defense kind of guy in Kenny Galladay. It's just, can he stay healthy, and can he learn a little bit more, and can he do more? Also, you've got Marvin Jones. Do you need another take the top off the defense kind of guy? You absolutely do not. And if you need a guy to sit there and work your flats or work what you got going on, you got that. You know what? His name's Theo Riddick. Theo Riddick's your 5 yards and out kind of guy. That's what you got. You don't need anything Dez Bryant can bring here. You don't need it. You don't want it. So I'm not going to pay a 30-year-old declining wide receiver. I'm not going to pay him money that he's looking for. You can go somewhere else and you can take your headache there. As far as Malik McDowell goes, I'll play with Malik McDowell. Look, he was taken number 35 by the Seattle Seahawks. There were talks last year when he was getting drafted that he could be a late first-round pick. So there obviously is talent there. You remember when he was at Michigan State, he had a really, really good year, and then the year that he got drafted, he decided to take a flyer. So if you can motivate this guy, if you can bring him in, you can motivate him, and obviously getting released from Seattle, that should be motivation enough. You shouldn't have to do any more to motivate him. You bring him in, you motivate him, you give him a deal that is palpable to your Detroit Lions, you throw him on this line, and you let some guys kind of work their way with him, and you see, look, if you can motivate him and it's a no-risk contract, why the hell would you not?
Here's how I see it. No on Malik McDowell, yes on Dez Bryant. They should be in talks to get him in because of the fact you can sell Dez Bryant on the fact that he will have a significant amount of success here in Detroit. It's a perfect fit. He gets that quarterback that can get him the ball, Two, you provide that leadership. Just because of the fact that you're thinking he's a malcontent, he can provide insight into the league, into things in the NFC, to Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones. And here's the thing, too. He's going to realize the market's going to dictate he take less and fill a role. And look, what kept Anquan Boldin in the league till damn near 40 years old? He changed it up. Anquan Boldin was that guy that was getting all the touches. Now he goes to a different system. He's getting touches. He's more of a possession guy. If you can sell Dez Bryant, I bring him in the room and say, look, we're going to pay you $7-8 million. You're going to get the ball from Matthew Stafford, and you bring him in for the experience that he has to teach a guy like a Kenny Galladay what's going on in the league. And here's the thing. What did we see last year? We saw an emergence in Marvin Jones. What better way to continue that emergence across the entire wide receiving core than to have a freak of nature athletically on the team? I'm sold. You bring in Dez Bryant and you mold him into a guy that can be productive. You got a matchup nightmare. You're going to have to, because here's what happens. You got Dez Bryant, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, right? Who are you going to cover? How can you cover that? You want to double Marvin Jones? Boom, you kick it out to Dez Bryant, get 10 yards and a first down. Boom, you want to double down on Dez Bryant, take him away from the game. Now you make Golden Tate a lot better. Now you make the entire receiving core better, and it opens up for Marvin Jones. You make the entire receiving core better having Dez Bryant on that field. And I truly believe if they make that move, I would even slot them in the playoffs, guaranteed, not knowing or not even caring about what's left, what they take. If they just stop with Dez Bryant, it's a playoff team that can make some noise. Because Dez Bryant, if you just get that 1 year, that special year, remember that 1 year with Randy Moss when he went to the New England Patriots? They won damn near 17 games in a row into the Super Bowl.
But they didn't win the Super Bowl.
They did not. But we're talking about the Detroit Lions here. So if we want to kick it off into that next step with a new coach, bring in Dez Bryant. That offense kicks it up into 2 or 3 gears, and I think you now have a top 5 offense in the NFL, and then you got the defensive wizard as the coach to handle his business. I think you should be making that call nonstop every 20 minutes. What number are you thinking? I think they should call Dez Bryant. And if you're Matthew Stafford and you're not really in that room fighting for Dez Bryant, then you're an idiot.
I think it's a really myopic way to look at bringing in one player. You're okay, cool. You're looking at Dez Bryant on what
1 or 2
used
years
to be. All right, that's cool. I get it. All right, if you can get Dez Bryant from 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, but this isn't the same player.
I'll take him as an $8 million a year decoy. It'll help.
I was going to ask you, how much would you pay for him? You would pay $8 million. Because I was right around $8 million.
Yes.
That's where I was at.
$8 million.
All right. Do you have the payroll to go out there and spend $8 million on him? I don't think you do. If you want, I'll let you know if you do or not. But I don't believe you have the $8 million on this team right now to go out there and to be able to dump on an aging wide receiver. You know, it doesn't necessarily make sense to me to be able to go out there. Well, you can take that money and you can invest this in another player who's going to give you either more production or is going to do. Okay, so let's see here. I got the salary cap up here. So as I'm rambling on, you've got roughly, according to Sport Track, you've got about $9 million to spend. So if you want to go spend 8, you could, but you're right up against the cap then. So maybe.
Okay, look at his numbers in 2017. 69 catches, 838 yards, average yards per game 50, long 50-yard touchdown, 6 touchdowns, 8 catches of 20-plus yards or more, 2 catches of 40-plus yards.
So okay, let's
16 games played all last year.
I'll play your game, and I'll play with you here. Okay, so you're gonna go no on Malik McDowell. I think you'd be silly if you didn't at least bring him in and talk to him and see if you can work out a palpable contract, because it's not going to cost you a whole lot. Because
flyer
might be crazy. But we'll say no to him. You want to bring in Dez. Dez to say, look, I'm only going to take 8. I ain't taking anything less. It's going to be 8, and then you're going to laden that thing with some sweet incentives. So, like, when I get after my 5th touchdown of the year, because
kick in some money,
you know, I'm gonna get like 7 or 8 of those bad boys, maybe a little bit more. The thing's going to skyrocket. So let's do that. After 40 catches, it's because I'm going to get all of them. It's going to go up too, so let's put that in there.
I see what you're saying. You're scared you're going to see Dez Bryant pointing his finger right in Matthew Stafford's face after Game 5?
I am scared of.
That would be kind of funny,
what
right?
I am scared of, because I have visions of Dez Bryant losing his mind on the sideline in Dallas, ripping his head coaches and ripping his offensive coordinators to pieces. I can see him picking up Jim Bob Cooter and just breaking him in 2 as he sits there and does a pile driver to him on Ford Field's logo. So I don't necessarily want him. I don't want to give him money because He's pissed off that he's not hitting his incentives. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm at with this. But let's just play along. All right, you give him this contract. It's insane. It's whatever. It's got sweet little incentives. $8 million a year. Cool. You're guaranteed, bro. Who's your wide receivers now? How does your wide receiver pecking order go? Because we've already discussed Dez Bryant doesn't have the speed to go deep anymore.
Okay? 1A Dez Bryant Marvin Jones combo.
Okay.
And then you got the possession guy in Golden Tate.
Okay.
Did they bring back TJ Jones?
They did.
Okay.
So you're going to go with TJ Jones. Why did you invest a draft pick in Kenny Galladay? What are you going to do with him?
He can be in there in the mix. Remember, second-year player. Maybe he has to continue to show more. You split time with.
So you're going to put TJ Jones over Kenny Galladay.
Mm-hmm. You could. He kind of emerged a little bit. You brought him back. And hey, you know what? You want to mix up the defense, play 5 wide receivers, play them all.
God, what is the greatest show on turf?
Yes.
So are you not?
We're not running, baby. If you don't get the running back, you put 5 wide receivers out there, and good luck to you. Try to guard it.
I think of everybody that you named, TJ Jones is probably the odd man out if you bring Dez Bryant in. All right, if you bring Dez in, which I hope you don't, just want to go on record right now, so I hope you don't.
You're wrong.
If you do, right.
I think there's a 40% chance they even do it.
If you do, all right, it would be Marvin Jones would be your number one. He's your deep guy, right? So then Dez would kind of be a tweener between a guy who he's not going to stretch the whole field, but he'll pick you up some chunks. And then you got Golden Tate. He's a possession guy. And then you've got Kenny Galladay. He's your other deep guy. So you can lie.
You know what?
You can lie Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones up on the outsides.
You know what?
And then and the inside.
Just from what I've seen, and maybe a little bit of chirping too much. Listen,
I might not mind that so much.
Being that I'm a general manager in waiting draft day, I move Golden Tate. I trade him.
Ooh.
Pick up a second rounder.
It's funny you bring that up because in a mock draft that we have here from your boy, Chris Burke of The Athletic, we've got a little situation like a little scenario.
Been doing some reading. Hit me up with that.
Yeah,
what's the scenario?
What's the scenario? What's the scenario? All right, let's take a peek-see here. Make sure I pull up the right one because this guy's got like 9 mock drafts.
Right, good stuff.
And all of his mock drafts, he gives you like 3 or 4 different scenarios. Okay, so let me find the Marvin Jones one or the trading of Golden Tate. I probably should have took better notes on all this. My bad. I was rushing.
What do you think?
Golden Tate. If you trade him away, I'm not.
There's some value there. You move up TJ Jones into that slot. You give him that role. Golden Tate is going to be looking for some money. He's kind of been hinting on his social media platforms, I need to get paid. Yeah. I've been doing this and that. I think his yards after the catch have across the league has kind of indicated that he's going to want some money.
He is going to want some money. So
I'm okay with that.
He's going to be a guy who's going to cost you.
Yeah.
Maybe not this year, but next year he's going to cost you.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with trading him. I think at this point, you've got to look at what you have right now, how much he's costing you, and then you have to try to figure out what he's going to cost you. And that's where you kind of got to, that's where the marketplace should really, really start to take effect here. I'm going to see. Okay, so I'm pulling him up right now. So Golden Tate right now, his base salary is $7 million. So if you trade him away, you can bring Dez in, and Dez we already discussed. If he costs you $8 million, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. All right, but you've got to trade Golden Tate away for something. It can't just be nothing. It can't be a bag of balls just to move that contract. It's going to have to be something. So if that's the case, yeah, I guess I might be okay with that contract-wise, but it's got to be a really good contract that's going to help the Lions because I'm telling you, Dez is going to cause a headache. And you know what? It can't be a long-term deal. I don't want Dez here long-term because I don't think long-term you'll get the production out of Dez Bryant. You might get 1 or 2 magical years out of him. And then after that third year has to be palpable to this team to be able to sit there and ship him off. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
All right. So since we're looking at Chris's mock draft, let's take a little peek-see. Now, he gives us a couple different scenarios, and that's cool. So this is his older mock draft, and we got a newer one. With his older mock draft, he gets really crazy with some of these trades that he does. All right? So this guy is talking about trading your number 20 and your 153rd pick to the New England Patriots for their 31st and their 63rd. Would you do that?
Yeah. I'm all the
You're
opinion.
going to end up moving back.
Yes,
And then you're going to end up moving up later on.
Yes, I think it's an opportunity to make some moves. You got to acquire picks. You got to maybe move up and do some things. Be aggressive. That's all we ask for every year with these general managers is, look, if you got a guy that you think is the guy, don't be hesitant to go up and get him. Maybe you move down and move up, maybe make a bunch of wild moves. And so I agree with a lot of what Chris says. I think that it's the right amount of moves and things like that, and why not go with an old trade partner? You know that New England's always wanting to trade, and maybe they need to move up into that 20 spot and things like that. And hopefully what happens is that there's some shakeup in the first 10, 15, which causes a really desired player to fall to that 20 spot to maybe get into a bidding war, maybe get an additional pick and things like that. So I'm all okay with moving back in the draft in the effort to acquire more picks, because I do think in the second and third rounds is where Bob Quinn's going to make his money. First round, you know you're going to get some talent and everyday starters and things like that. But if you can maybe move back in the first round and acquire additional second and third round picks, you do it. You just acquire picks, and that's the opportunity you're going to have to build a young team that can do some things. So I'm okay with what Chris says in pretty much every aspect of what I read. I wasn't against anything in any of the scenarios, even though there's so many of them.
Okay, in this certain scenario where you're moving back with the Patriots, at round 31, you're going to pick up Lorenzo Carter, offense or outside linebacker from Georgia. In round 2, at number 51, you're going to pick up Braden Smith, guard/tackle combo out of Auburn. So now you're going to address your offensive line. At 63, Terrell Edmonds, safety out of Virginia Tech. And in round 3, at pick 82, you're going to address your running backs. So now you've addressed you obviously have addressed defense. You have addressed offense, defense, and now you're coming back and addressing your offense with running back Royce Freeman, running back out of Oregon. Can I say running back one more time? I might be able to. So let's look at his newest one. All right, that was at his draft 2.0. This is his 3.0, and again, he's got some really interesting things going on here. And his first scenario, I'm just going to run through this real quick. At number 20, he drafts Deron Payne, defensive lineman, Auburn. I don't have a problem with that. I like that. Comes back second round, drafts Kenyon Johnson, running back out of Auburn. I like that. I think that's good. Rashawn Golden, defensive back out of Tennessee. Hercules Mata-Afa, edge rusher out of Washington. And then round 5, he does everything here. Trey Quinn, wide receiver out of SMU. And Matt Gano, offensive lineman out of Wesley. I mean, at that point, good luck. I don't know. You're your 7th round pick. You're hoping for something. Maybe you get something. I like this draft, but I don't like this draft because you don't really address your offensive line. So apparently you believe that if this is the case, you believe that you're going to be able to get something out of some of the guys you currently have.
What do you make of
I'm okay with that.
What do you make of the news that the Lions are interested in a lot of players and they're bringing in guys even at the tight end position, offensive guard, things like that? What do you make of the way and what you've heard so far regarding the way the Lions are bringing in a bunch of different talent to evaluate them? Because it kind of really, obviously you think that the Lions are doing their due diligence, but I just kind of think that people are scared and skeptical that if they draft an offensive guard or a lineman on the offense or a tight end at 20, it just isn't going to make a lot of people happy. It's just the Lions are doing their due diligence. I think that the reports that you're hearing, it makes you feel like, they're at least kind of doing their due diligence. They're getting the right guys in there to interview and look at and things like that. But when it comes down to it, I do think that they're going to grade out to have a decent draft. I don't think it's going to be bad this year. Like I said, the one fear is that you're not going to get the right guy, but that's the gamble. I mean, that's the thing with the draft. That's what makes it so fun to watch, is that there's a chance the guy we get's not going to be productive. That's the gamble. That's the walking up and watching, the craps table, is that sometimes you're going to see snake eyes. Sometimes you're going to see the big win, but we want to be in the mix. We want to watch it.
I don't want a tight end at 20.
No, that's terrible, right?
I mean, I think at this point, all of us are so jaded and we're all hurt by Eric Ebron.
Yeah.
That if they go tight end, we're all going to go crazy.
Did you see how Edward Peebles called me out and was like, dude, they're not taking a tight end. Relax, bro. I'm like, look, I wanted to rile it up. Come on, man. Don't crush my dreams. But I know they're not taking a tight end. They're not taking a tight end.
They can't.
No, they won't. They won't do it. They won't do it, right?
The Lions fan base will.
They're not taking a tight end, bro, right?
They can't. They absolutely can't. What do you make about this? This is another one of his many, many scenarios. Because, look, when I say that Chris just throws out scenarios, this dude just throws. I mean, he gives credit, and he gives. I want to give him credit.
It's reasonable.
Yes, he gives explanations why. So I'm not bringing this to the table just to kind of stir it up or just to be like, well, what about this? No, he gives legit information and gives picks and guys who he feels will help this team be better. I just think sometimes they're a little bit out there, but I can see it. I mean, so that's why I bring it to the table and we're talking about it here, because you can justify it, because it's there. The justification's there. All right. So, and this is another one where he's talking about totally bailing on the first round. So if you're the Detroit Lions, you're moving back. You're giving up on 20, and you're going to give up on your 7th round pick. You're going to give those to Indianapolis. With those picks, you're going to pick up the 36th pick, which is in the second round. You're going to pick up the 49th pick, which is in the second round. And then you're going to pick up a future first rounder. So now your second round looks like this. All right. You're going to go to Duke, Jeff or F4. Good luck. I can't pronounce it. Edge pick, Wake Forest. It's going to be fun to see Roger Goodell try to pronounce this, because he messes stuff up all the time. I love when he screws stuff up. So it's going to be great. Their number 49 pick in the second round, Dante Jackson, cornerback out of LSU. So defense. All right, addressing your defensive line, addressing your cornerback. And then round 2, you're going to stick with Braden Smith, guard tackle combo, again, out of Auburn. Round 3, you're going to go Deshaun Hand, defensive line. So obviously, this draft is addressing a lot of your weaknesses on your defensive line. You're trying to correct them and trying to fix your offensive line. What do you think about that? And then you get that 5th round pick later on.
Yeah, like I said, I'm cool with it. I think that in terms of
but no running back.
Yeah, what the areas of need are. Potentially you could get like somebody that gets cut maybe early on in training camp and things like that in terms of the running back if you don't emphasize it, because remember, we are kind of hearing that the Lions are pretty much cool with maybe Amir in a different kind of role, and now you have LeGarrette Blount that could also supplement that core. So they might not maybe get that running back early on. You never know, but people are going to probably think they're going to get one maybe later in the draft and try and see if he can spark something. But they might be happy with what they got in the room with the addition of LeGarrette Blount and the emergence of who they got still there. But I still think that when you look at what Chris does, I think that when you look at it, it involves moves. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you're going to see with the Lions. You're not going to see them just go boom, 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 stay. You're going to see some wheeling and dealing because of the fact that they don't have as many picks as the rest of the league. They need picks. And just based on what we've seen, they haven't done a whole heck of a lot in free agency significantly.
Bob Quinn was asleep.
That would tell you, that would tell you that the emphasis is on let's make a bunch of moves and let's get at it. And so with Chris's scenarios, it just makes sense, and it lends credo to the notion that the Lions are going to be wheeling and dealing. So pay attention. Pay attention all 4 days of the draft.
I think at this point, especially kind of taking out what the Lions did and what Bob Quinn did specifically during the free agency period, they are going to be making moves. Come the draft.
And the question is going to be, are they making $1 million moves? Making $1 million moves.
So
let's see.
Do they move? I think what we really have to pay attention to is, do they move that 20th overall draft pick? Is that the pick that they move? Or do they keep that, and then do they come back and do they move mid-round? Because a lot is going to tell you by what they do with that 20th pick. If they go running backs, I still believe they've got to get a running back this draft. If they go running back at 20, that then kind of, I think, frees you up a little bit to then kind of mess around a little. You start making different moves, moving back in the second round, moving back in the third round, maybe moving up in the fourth round, because now you've got all these extra little picks kind of hanging out. I could see them doing things like that. If they move out of that pick in the first round and then they move into the second round, you're going defense, probably going to go offense, which will be your running back, and then you're going defense again.
Bro,
do you know what I'm saying?
I can't wait till next Wednesday where we break it down, have some guests on, and we really dig into the draft. I think we might spend the whole hour and a half just talking about the draft. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I know we're breaking it down. You're digging in the trenches. You're reading up on everything. What an interesting conversation. You can go any which way. That's what makes it fun, bro. Yeah. That's what makes talking about the draft so fun, is that we could go a myriad of ways, positions, areas of need, trades. So awesome to talk about. I'm excited for it. Truly, it is the time to kick off the season for the Lions. This is our Super Bowl. We got to break it down. I can't wait until next Wednesday when we break it down, you and I will have a fun conversation about the draft, maybe get some guests and break it down. And hopefully there's some major news that we can chomp on. But, man, we tried to go shorter on this podcast, but it didn't happen. We went about 80 minutes.
Sure
All right, let's get out of here. An amazing podcast. Thank you all for finding us. You can find us anywhere podcasts are found: Podomatic, Stitcher, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Time's up, cuz. Let's see everybody next week. Thank you so much for listening to Doc and Jock. It makes it so fun to break down sports here.
Go Lions.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.